Crusader King's Dev Diary, 77 languages or becoming a polyglot. This is about learning new languages and what is the advantage of it. How do you do it? How can you emulate others with schemes, for example? Who can learn how many languages and what can happen while learning a language? You can see that there's a lot of events there, and there's also results when you have learned the language with special other bonuses besides the one that knowing a language cuts the rather hefty opinion penalties for different culture in half, both for characters and counties. So, if you want to conquer a foreign kingdom, you can start the conquest by mastering the language, making subsequent control of the new subjects just that much easier. The less accepted your culture is by them, the more impact learning a language will have. So how do you do it? You learn new languages through scheming. It's a scheme. Attempt to learn, in that case, you target someone. Attempt to learn Sheikh Bahram's Tubu language, improving the attitude of all who speak the language towards you. And you can already see here, there's a language limit. It is limited by your learning skill. We'll come to that later. We have the starting scheme here. So in that case, if scheme is successful, you learn the Arabic language. Chance of 36%, but it's going to need 16 years. It's probably also modified by his very bad opinion of you here. And every month there's a predicted chance of 5% to progress based on scheme power versus scheme resistance. So 16 years, that's quite a long time. It's quite an investment, but it's progress and chance of success are primarily derived from how scholarly your character is. The scheme is available to everyone, even young children, who have a vastly increased chance of success and progress by virtue of being young, less tired, and having working brains. It will target someone who natively speaks the language, having you try to emulate them. While the exact target you choose is less important than in other types of schemes, you might still get opportunities to interact with them, which is why it's probably important to have a positive attitude towards them, and they having a positive attitude towards you. It takes quite some time. It's possible to significantly speed up the process by employing a court tutor, as you can see here. That court tutor, Sigmund in that case, increases the learn language scheme power by 12 and improves education outcomes. So if you have a good court tutor, he will help you learning a language. And probably it's most optimal if the tutor himself has another language. So there are also bonuses for this scheme throughout the existing lifestyle trees. There are some examples here. So that's not all. That's just some of them. Adaptive traditions unlocks an additional learn language scheme. Embassies increases scheme power. Chains of loyalty increases scheme power. Pedagogy increases scheme success chance. Open-minded increases the language limit, and smooth operator increases the language limit again. The scheme is invalidated by, for example, the target dying. Progress is retained, and you can choose a new target, as you can see here. You have a selection similar to when you're looking, for example, for a court physician. Then you can have a look at the characters and decide whom you want to study with. It's quite a variation here. These are rather young people. There's an older one here, and you can choose which one you would like to interact with, because there can also be events. So, and there's also limits. We have seen the limits already. This guy, for example, has a foreign language limit 1 out of 2. Because there needs to be a way to prevent characters from knowing all languages in the world, because these are like, very exceptional cases. And the foreign language limit, if that is exceeded, you can exceed it. You will start getting events about feeling overwhelmed, giving you the choice between forgetting a language or gaining stress. In a sense, this system is very similar to how we handle characters having too many levels. So, if you learn the language, you might have to suffer for it. It might be a little bit stressful, but if you're good with stress, you can maybe go over that limit a little bit. Character can never forget the language that is native to their culture, and that language isn't included in the limit. The language limit is affected by many things, but primarily by a character's learning score, where every 5 attribute points increases the limit by 1. So if you get a learning 25 guy, you can learn 5 foreign languages. If you have learning 10, you can learn 2 foreign languages. If you have learning 5, you can learn 1 language, 1 additional foreign language. With this change, we've made it so that the more languages you know, the higher your success chance is for learning additional languages. You have the basics done already, after all, and as you can see that here. So learn the language of Kings the Salmon. So your learning has a very high impact. The Archbishop's learning, and the number of already learned languages also gives a bonus, and you are young and eager to learn also gives a bonus. So as a child it's easier, but if you have already learned some languages, it also gives a bonus. There's a minimum chance of 5%, of course. Now the process of learning a language can be quite entertaining, and there are many events. Now let's come to the events. I want to read through them all, but you can navigate easily with chapters. So if you don't want to see them all, just skip to the next chapter or something like that. But I'm really interested in all of the events because I think they're usually very entertaining. A handful of examples. What can happen? So we have Sigmund again, whom we've seen at the start already. My court tutor Sigmund has been aiding me day and night in my efforts to learn High German. His dedication to the art of teaching is inspirational. There's not a day where I'm not brought a High German letter to read, a learned Franconian man to converse with, or an extraordinary mnemonic rhyme. Truly, I would not be this far along without Sigmund's help. And you can learn the language, a success chance of around 44%, around 3 years. You can give him a reward or give him just a slap on the back. So if you have a particularly good court tutor, they can guide the efforts along very speedily. You can see that was the guy with the base chance of 16 years and 29%. But something can go wrong, as you can see here. My previous Cushitic notes are scattered all over my study, and the ink-soaked raven, so a rival has sent an ink-soaked bird to our study, is still flapping its wings all over. How did it even get in here? Who covered it in ink? A letter for you, my niggers. I turn around and snatch the message out of the servant's hand. Real shame what happened to your notes, but look on the bright side, your writing was already similar to Crow's feet. Regards, Kalile. So you can be sabotaged in that. Kalile deserves to die. Could start an intrigue against them, or so much work done. In any case, it will increase the stress. It can be a stressful thing. Then an amorous misunderstanding. It doesn't result in what you would expect. And so the Khan discussed the best daggersmiths in the realm with the council. Meanwhile, the steward proceeded to, I look up startled from the Shaz-Turkic book, only to notice a flushed Xuanyi leaning over me. Oh my, is that Shaz-Turkic you're speaking, she says. You know, Shaz-Turkic is the language of love, and if I did not mishear, you just called me a winsome turtle dove, you treasure you. So we can here learn the language of Ilikurt Kul. It could be stressful, sending away or accepting that, or we could just say it's a misunderstanding. So it could also be a way to start a relationship even. Sometimes learning a language doesn't result in what you would expect. Libertine literature. As I'm reading loudly from the Greek book that Basileus Constantinus sent me a while back, I noticed a whole host of servants snickering at me. Please don't stop reading, the servants giggled. He was just about to show his shapely legs. We need to know if the prince and the page end up together, or if that debauchee gets between them again. Am I reading something lewd? God, his wounds! So I can get rid of the blasted book. Dare laugh at me, flog them all. Oh well, I suppose it is educational in a sense. So sometimes the targets find the efforts laughable to try to make fun of you. And you can also have... There's an opportunity to gain a trinket slot item that will help your efforts along. A worn manual. Baron Önundur approaches me, smiling serenely. My lord, I have heard that you are studying the Anglic language. My father was a merchant, and he could learn any language in no time at all, he says. His secrets are in his manual. I have no use for it, as I cannot read. I'd part with it for a reasonable sum. So that's the trinket, the worn language manual. You can pay, you can snatch it, you can send him away, you can negotiate. But in any way, you will get something that might probably help you, an artifact. There can also be outside help. As learning a language isn't a secret, sometimes you'll get offers from other rulers to help you for a price. And here it seems as if my studies of the Magyar language has reached the ears of Count Marty. He's a native speaker and is offering to help me in my studies. I ask no more than a token reward for my efforts, Count, he says, pursing his lips, so we can give him gold, favors. In that case, you'll all be stressed. You're so selfless, offering to help me for free. Thank you, but I can manage on my own. So there's different challenge. In that case, helping for free is an intrigue challenge, but still, you could get the help. Then, if you're successful, when the scheme completes, you have a chance of success and failure. So it could ultimately fail. That is the chance. If you're brave, you might even choose to test your new abilities right away by penning a letter to your target. After lots of hard work, I finally learned the Shastukik language. Endless hours practicing accentuation, sleepless nights mimicking inflection, countless lessons mastering intonation. It was all worth it in the end. During my efforts, I looked to emulate Cantatus' accent. I'm sure that he would be impressed by my results. And of course, Pecheneg presents now respect me a great deal more. And you can send, which is a diplomacy challenge. It could result in a friendship, or if you're doing bad, a rivalry. It comes across as a mockery, but it can also fail. Oh my goodness me. So, if you fail, as you can see here, you lose half of the progress, but you can still continue. Or you could give up completely. So if you give half of the progress but stay active, you will gain some stress, but you can continue. After lots of hard work, it's impossible to learn the High German language. No matter how hard I try, I speak like a barely weaned babe and write like an unlettered blind serf who's missing most of their fingers. This was a waste of time. But, of course, you might find that others emulating you in their efforts to learn your language. This gives you the opportunity to praise their efforts, or perhaps you'd rather ridicule them. So as you can see here, this is one of the messages that you can give someone who is learning or who has successfully learned a language. Greetings, cousin. I've studied the East Slavic language for many moons. This letter I personally penned using the East Slavic script, dedicated to you, a letter of friendship from a speaker of Lechitic. I wish for our future diplomatic dealings to benefit us both greatly. Signed, King Boleslav of Poland. He's learned East Slavic. Impressive. Send my regards. His vain attempt at gaining glory is laughable. But in any case, it's another opportunity to not only profit from it when you take over lands and rule them, but also to improve relationships. that has been, I think, very interesting. I think it's a very cool and fun thing to do that can also help you along on your way. And that, of course, adds more events. In the next week, there will be another use for languages, apparently. So I'm looking forward to that too. Something which ties directly into the mechanics of the royal court. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you can write a hymn or a poem, a foreign language poem even, or you can weave that in a gobelin. I don't know. We'll find out next week, I guess. So thank you for watching and happy gaming to you. Have a great time until then, and happy gaming.